So, I'm feeling a little tired again, and some anxiety, but doing okay. Um, this is Jenna doing tiny home freedom, and so I spent a fair amount of time today um, working on the blog a bit, and working with. I uploaded. Um, I guess I recorded it this morning. Um, a 15-minute video that I uploaded to YouTube, and then spent some time familiarizing myself with YouTube. And I took my medication a little while ago, and I'm starting to feel it a bit. It tends to make me a little bit sleepy, kind of hard to focus. So, um, but yeah, some of the things I was thinking about today, um, things that I would like to learn about for myself as well as share in the videos is some like guidelines of what it's a good idea to have in a tiny home. Because, if you build a big house, there's building codes where they require X amount of space, X number of windows, X number of exits out of the building, things like that. And some of those codes, it's more like to support the corporations that supply building materials. um, but others actually make sense, like making sure that there's um, multiple ways to get out of the building in case there's a fire or some sort of emergency. And even in a tiny house, and I've seen quite a few tiny houses that have this, if you're in that back kitchen bathroom area, it's good to have an exit back there in case of an emergency rather than having to go all the way through to the front of the house to exit. And one of the videos I saw recently is a couple living together in a tiny house on wheels, and they mentioned that it's important for the entry door to be 3 feet wide so that if someone had a heart attack or something, the emergency response team can get in with their equipment. And that was something I hadn't thought of about, like, in my various designs that I've done so far. Like, sometimes I have a 3 foot wide door for the entrance, and other times it's more narrow. And yeah, that makes total sense. It's good to have, that ability for somebody to come in with all the equipment to save you if you have a heart attack. So, yeah, so then I was thinking there's general things like that, it'd be great to have like a handy list of those recommendations of things that it's just smart to have in a tiny house. Because a tiny house on wheels, because it's on wheels, rather than having to worry about building codes, it's about the Department of Transportation and making sure it meets the safety requirements for it being on the road, but they really don't have any specifications about the actual living space. So that's something to think about. And I know here I'm in the town of Ithaca, and if you have an extra building that's on a foundation, if it's a dwelling, it has to be 600 feet minimum. So, like, if you build something like an in-law place in your backyard, it has to be at least 600 square feet. And when I learned about that, I was just like, oh man. So, but I was thinking, it's different if there's apartments, like an apartment building. There's requirements for the minimum size of like a utility apartment. Is that what they call them? An efficiency apartment still has minimum size requirements, and that is something. It's actually I was thinking is a good general guideline for a tiny house on wheels. And of course, it's totally up to someone's discretion whether or not they try to meet those minimum size requirements, etc. But I was thinking, since a tiny house on wheels is kind of in this gray zone where it really depends on local authorities and neighbors about whether or not you end up having problems with, cops showing up or what have you, saying like, hey, is this supposed to be here? Is this kosher? You know? So I was thinking with my tiny house, if I could have it meet those minimum size requirements for an efficiency apartment, then if I ever get harassed by anyone, I can just say, well, look, you let people live in a building with these size requirements, so why can't I be in the backyard on wheels with these size requirements? And so I actually know a little bit about, in the past, there's a new eco-village that's a little bit outside of Ithaca, and for a little while I was thinking like, oh, well, that would be so great if I could like get like a little plot of land there and be part of the it's not land share, but be part of the eco-village, own my little piece of 100 acres of this $1 million property, 100 acres. And I think it's like maybe 30 places that they're having for people to build their idea of an environmentally friendly home. And so I sent them an email just kind of asking about it. And financially, I didn't really have the ability to, like, it was like $40,000 or something to, like, get a place to build a house. But I just wanted to find out about it. And so I told them, about my idea of a tiny house on wheels. And they were really kind and wrote back and said that, and I showed them the largest tumbleweed design, and I sent them the URL for that, saying that's like the kind of thing I wanted to build. And so they wrote back and said that they couldn't really allow that because it didn't meet those minimum building requirements for, I think it's Danby, maybe. I forget the name of the town that they're in, but it's just outside of Ithaca. It's like 15 minutes drive to downtown Ithaca from where they are. And so then he listed all those requirements. And so that was the first time I was really kind of thinking about that, of, wow, should I try to meet these requirements or not? So then I thought, well, this is kind of an interesting design challenge to see if it's possible to incorporate that into the tiny house. And one of the main things is, like, the main living space has to be 120 square feet. And the kitchen has to be a minimum of, I think it's 54 square feet or 56 square feet. Like 7 by 8 feet is enough for it. Maybe it was 50 square feet. It has to be a minimum of 50 square feet for the kitchen area, and it has to be a minimum of 3 feet from the counter edge to the wall behind you in terms of, like, the walking space. And all of those are actually doable with, like, a 20-foot tiny house on wheels, and especially, like, if you make it like 21 or 22 feet, it's very doable. They didn't have any size requirements for the bathroom, just that it be separate from the rest of the living space, and that it has a toilet and a shower. And with the kitchen, it required a sink, refrigeration, and some sort of cooking appliance. So all of those were doable. The one thing that didn't work very well, I think it was a minimum of 7 feet for the ceiling clearance, like the headroom. And so that basically means that you don't have a usable loft in the sense of sleeping. it could still be large enough to store some stuff if you had like trap doors to poke your head up to get to things or what have you. um, so that was the one thing. But then I was thinking about that today, and it's like, well, it's really nice to have those lofts. Like the designs I've been working on, I want to have my bed on the main floor level, but if there was a guest, then the guest could sleep up in the loft. Um, so I was thinking, well, it could be built where the lofts are removable somehow. I don't know if that'd be hard to do or not, but if they're kind of like somehow the loft is like in sections lowered down on some sort of metal braces or what have you, then it's not actually part of the core solid like permanent construction of the dwelling. It's something that someone chose to add in later, because things like the 120 square feet of open space for the main living space. And one of the other main things that was really important was it had to be a minimum of 7 feet in any horizontal direction. So with a tiny house on wheels, the widest it can be for being on the road is 8.5 feet. So you'd have to make sure that somehow the walls, and if you have like space for like the eaves on the roof, you'd have to make sure that you still have 7 feet of floor width for the room. So, and I lost track of what I was talking about before I brought that up. Oh, the 120 continuous feet, that's like the room, the solid, like permanent construction. So then if you want to have like closets and stuff that make it smaller, use a little bit of extra wood to do it, but you could make it a separate closet, like a cabinet. Like anyone would go to the store and buy like a wardrobe and then move it in and put it in the corner. Like it uses up some of that 120 square feet, but it's not a permanent part of the dwelling. So then you're still meeting code. So it's like at some point, as the tiny house movement gets more and more popular, there's going to be this sort of, period of transition about it becoming legal, because it's going to be legal someday. It's just, it's going to. But, there's going to be this process of it happening. And if a lot of tiny home dwellers take the responsibility of meeting those reasonable requirements, it'll facilitate things so much more, where like local authorities will be like, well, yeah, they're kind of in this gray zone, but look, they like chose to use this model that we already have for minimum apartment size with efficiency apartments. So, it can't be that bad. And I know that not everybody would want a 20-foot long tiny house on wheels, but it's like, if you're able to, and if that size isn't larger than you actually need, then it's a good idea. And like the 120 continuous square feet could be the great room and the kitchen. So it's just about not having like a room divider between the kitchen and the great room area that makes it 120 continuous square feet, and then also doubles like the kitchen area, just making sure that it's 50 square feet. And I guess like what qualifies it as kitchen is countertops, and if it's cabinetry for storing like your pantry with storing your food, that's part of the square feet of the kitchen, the kitchen area. And and I was in somebody's efficiency apartment once, and basically it was like one room that was large enough for a bed and a dresser on one end of the room, and the other end of the room was the kitchen that had like 6 feet of like, it was like stove right next to it, sink right next to it, refrigerator under the counter, and then a few cabinets up above. And then the floor for that kitchen area, quote unquote, was just like tiles or something on the floor instead of the carpet. So the bed area was carpeted and the kitchen area had like linoleum, and that made the like 50 square feet of kitchen, even though it was only like 6 feet of actual kitchen counter. So, and all the rest, it's like, oh, it's room for like a dining table or what have you, and then it had like a hallway that was like maybe 4 feet wide with closets on one side, and then a door into the bathroom, which was just large enough for a toilet, a tiny sink, and a shower. And the building code for what was sent to me by that eco-village, it didn't say anything about having to have a sink in the bathroom. It only said that it had to have a toilet and a shower, like some sort of bathing fixtures. Bathing fixtures. So, so those wet bathrooms should meet totally fine, because they didn't have any details about what connotes a shower or a bathtub, or, just had to be a toilet and a way to bathe. So, if we choose to be responsible in our choices in building tiny homes, then it will make it easier for local authorities or federal authorities to choose to make it easier to choose that lifestyle and not be harassed by technicalities. And it's ridiculous that there's laws supporting making homes larger than you need. And especially if somebody is like building themselves and choosing something smaller, it should not be interfered with, as long as it's, large enough to be safe. And but it's like, I know that there's tiny designs where they're like super micro tiny, like the outhouse. I saw the outhouse recently, which I thought was really great. And it's conceivable that someone could be totally content living in that full time if they have a job and a very active social life. Because basically it's like a place to sleep, store your clothes, bathe, go to the bathroom, and sometimes stick something in the microwave if you're not eating out that night. Or if you want a snack, and not having to go out to the store in order to just have some sort of snack at midnight or something. And there's a lot of people that's totally sufficient. I mean, it had a nice big 32-inch TV too, so, if you happen to be just hanging in for the night and watching movies and, and then buddy calls up and, oh yeah, okay, yeah, let's go out, turn off the TV and sip on out, makes a lot of sense. Or even, like somebody like that travels a lot, and like just, they might tow it behind their truck instead of renting hotels, if there was easy place to park it, but anyway, so I talked longer than 15 minutes. I'm not going to be able to upload this to YouTube. So I have to figure out I was trying to get the upload done for the blog, but the server that I have hosting until July right now. So I was gonna upload the videos, but they were having a problem with the server, so I wasn't able to work on it. So hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to upload these videos. So, peace and see you soon.